Hello and welcome to Strictly Game Boy, the podcast with that olive green tint. I'm your host Clay Howard, and today I'm joined by my co-host Bryan. Bryan, how are you?
You scared me.
Boo.
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. I've been working on my British accent in preparation for today's episode.
I didn't notice.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Swish and flick.
Swish and flick. Awesome. Well, Bryan, are you doing pretty good, man? Are you doing well?
We're talking about my favorite series. Of course I'm doing well.
Yes, you're the beloved series that
I am the biggest Harvey Plotter fan.
I thought you were going to say Harvey Weinstein. I was like, whoa.
No, that's not funny.
It's not?
No. This is at least funny to me.
Agree to disagree.
Okay.
All right. Well, on that note, I assume we should probably just get into this week's episode. Ladies and gentlemen of the listeners at home, today we are talking about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Here we go. Very good. So guys, today, as I mentioned, we are taking a look at Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
For the Game Boy Color.
For the Game Boy Color, yes.
Because there's like 35 versions of this game.
There were no Harry Potter games on the original Game Boy, but there were on the old Game Boy Color. So, Bryan, why don't you take a little bit here and tell us more about this game and the developers and all that fun stuff.
All right. So this game was developed by Kryptonite. That's the name of the development team. I guess they were owned. They were like one of 3 teams that worked for Amaze Entertainment, which is basically they were just a license house. I'm pretty sure I played a really crappy Game Boy Advanced Attack of the Clones game, Star Wars game made by Amaze Entertainment or something like that when I was much younger. But they were originally, I think it was founded, Amaze Entertainment was founded in 94, known, I think they were acquired by No Wonder Inc., and then eventually changed their name to Amaze, and then they were bought by someone else, and then sold off to someone else, and they're still kind of like around. I think the name Kryptonite still gets used, if only for nostalgia purposes.
Yeah.
Just because they have a name of a studio that's basically made like 100 different games or something like that. Or maybe Amaze is in charge of 100 different games. I don't know if Kryptonite made 100 different games, but like I said, basically just made a bunch of licensed stuff. This particular version came out in November 5th, 2002. One notable thing is that Amaze was in charge of, or Kryptonite was in charge of, as far as, Sorcerer's Stone, the first one?
Right.
They made both the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance version. And then for Chamber of Secrets, the Game Boy Advance was given to someone else, and they were only in charge of the Game Boy Color one. When The Prisoner of Azkaban came out later, Kryptonite did the GBA version. So I don't know if that had strained them too much, or they just didn't like their work, or something. It doesn't sound like it, because then they ended up giving the GBA version of Azkaban to them. So I don't know what the reasoning was for limiting their focus, but it might be just they were able to put more stuff into this, because this game has more playable characters. The first one was you could only play as Harry. Now you can play as Ron and Hermione and a couple other people. But I found that interesting though.
Yeah, definitely.
This is definitely an original game.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, it is and it isn't, I guess.
I mean, it's a licensed property. There are there's a a version of this game on pretty much any sustaining platform. Like, there's no Neo Geo Pocket Color version of it, but the Neo Geo Pocket Color died a couple years earlier, so maybe that's not a good example. But
yeah, I mean, you got GBA, GBC, GameCube, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and OS X.
Yeah, OS X too, which came out a little bit later than the other ones, but still, OS X got a version of this game. So,
but all those consoles got Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets games.
The game in name only.
But not this game that we're talking about today.
Yeah. So. This is also the last game to be published in North America on the Game Boy itself. You could say it's the Game Boy Color, but it's the Game Boy line. Original Game Boy line. So
right.
After this, it's all GBA. From here on out.
Probably for the best. One thing worth mentioning, I don't know if we were going to talk about this later. The first one is maybe not as highly regarded, or because I've never played the first one. I don't think you have either.
No.
It seems like a lot of people think this one, the sequel, is much better.
Yeah, and they made improvements to it. I mean, the game even tells you that it made improvements. At some point in the beginning, Dumbledore walks up to you and says, "Hey, we've done some renovations to Hogwarts since you last left. We added maps to every floor," which apparently pissed a lot of people off.
Right.
But those maps don't really tell you anything other than what floor you're on, which is
helpful.
helpful. It's helpful.
Yeah, but they're still extremely vague.
Shows you where the rooms are and the staircases are. It doesn't tell you what room is, whose classroom it is. If you've never played this game before, you will wander around for a while, just stumbling into each classroom, all of which have bad guys in them, except for the class that you were supposed to be in.
Yeah,
so,
interesting. But yeah, I mean, we assume the first game was probably a bit more of a rush job. We don't know that for a fact, but it definitely feels like this was the better of the two. I know I already said that, but
especially when they probably knew this game was coming.
Right.
So, whereas before, like, let's capitalize on this Harry Potter craze. I'm not sure when the Sorcerer's Stone came out in regards to the film coming out, but who knows how much time they had on that. This time they knew it was coming. They probably started development as the other one was winding down.
Right.
So,
yeah, and that was probably nice because they had the books to draw off. But
yeah,
we'll get to that later. I'm not trying not to get ahead of here. One little bit of trivia, I guess. One thing worth noting that makes this game, I guess, a little bit unique outside of what it already is. This was the last game to be published and distributed and playable on the Game Boy / Game Boy Color.
I thought
in North America.
I thought I'd give you like a bit of a leeway and just see where you're going with it before I called you out for saying what I said 3 minutes ago.
You already said that?
Yeah.
Well,
come on, Byron, get with it.
Clearly, you didn't leave a lasting impression. I just thought I'd do a much better job with it.
All right,
so.
all right. I think you did. I got some warm, tingly feelings going up my spine when you were speaking. So
there's not many games that I know what game, or there's not many consoles I know that this is the last game that came out for it.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for the N64 is the only other one I know.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know any?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I bet you if you sat and thought about it.
And then other than that distinction, it really doesn't mean much. They're not more like valuable or people like, I gotta have the last game. It's just kind of a cool little thing.
Which is interesting because usually later games in consoles' lives make them more rare, maybe less produced, and
less manufactured.
Right. There's not as many of them, but I don't think there's a scarcity for this game, so
okay,
they must have made enough of them.
I know that the GBA version sold incredibly well as the PS2 version. The other thing that we're not getting into here is that while there are many different versions of this game, most of them are very different. I assume the consoles are like mirror each other. Probably the only difference is graphical capabilities. Sure, the PS2 one looks like garbage, but more people bought, and But the Game Boy Color one is completely different from all the others. It is a turn-based RPG.
Yeah.
In fact, when you booted it up just for like the heck of it, I was like, oh, just see what this Harry Potter game's like, and started getting into it, and you got into your first battle, and I was like, wait, is this a RPG? And I immediately booted the game up. I was like, well, yeah, we need to talk about this. I had no idea this game was an RPG.
Yeah, me either.
I've seen it, plenty of times over the years, like just the box art and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's really my only history with it, was just scrolling through, and I'm like, oh, Harry Potter games, and somehow I like skipped the Chamber of Secrets and went straight for this one, not really intentionally, and then I was like, oh, we should
skip Sorcerer's Stone.
What did I say?
Chamber of Secrets.
Gosh, I am not on it today.
Yeah.
I skipped Philosopher's Stone and went straight for Chamber of Secrets.
Look how cultured I am.
And then I was like, oh, this is the second one. Oops. And then I was like, oh, maybe we should do the first one first, like go in order.
Yeah, we looked into it, and in the first one, you only play as Harry.
Right.
So.
And then we're like, maybe we should just do the better of the two and not worry about doing both of them at some point.
Yeah.
So it worked out. I think by that point we were already kind of attached to this one. So,
yeah. Unless there's some sort of uprising amongst our fans or listeners or something like that.
Right.
I don't see us going and playing that one.
Probably not. But you never know. Actually, yesterday I was down in my basement cleaning up and packing up, and I noticed that I actually have the first one down there. I don't think I have this one, but I have the Sorcerer's Stone one down there. I think somebody gave it to me or traded it to me or something. One other thing I wanted to point out here, interesting fact you may not know about this game. It was actually the last game released on the Game Boy Color.
It hold for, soundboard laughter.
It's not coming.
Don't lose your shorts, dude. We'll be back after this.
Do it.
All right. Well, there is our commercial for the week. Definitely not the best one to just listen to, unless you're like into sick beats, because
that was the sickest.
That is one of the illest beats.
I think we should say baddest.
The baddest.
Considering this is like a late '80s, early '90s commercial.
So bad.
But just much like the Power Glove.
So bad. But if you are actually watching it on YouTube, it's actually really cool. And I mean, maybe we could do our best to kind of explain what we've seen here.
It's like a cross somewhere between like a Terry Gilliam animation, like from like the Monty Python Flying Circus.
Yeah.
And then every internet meme ever where you put a game or you put something in someone's hand in a picture, like, oh, I'm holding up this.
Right.
Isn't it so weird that a black and white photo has like, I don't know, something color, some Game Boy holding it up.
And then there's like so it's just a bunch of like fast boom, boom, boom. Here's a thing. Pop culture.
Here's a black and white movie with two guys. Instead, they're playing poker in the Old West, but instead of their cards, they're holding Game Boys. And that's only on the screen for half a second. And then we move on to something else.
And there's like one with like ketchup and mustard, but there's a Game Boy on it. A
room full of cone heads.
Yeah. Somebody in a photo booth posing with their Game Boy. It's just like real fast pace. Honestly, it's aged a lot better than some of these other commercial have. Maybe geared towards a slightly older audience.
I mean, I don't know. It's aged better, but you still have like a statue of Chairman Mao holding up a Game Boy, so there's still references that some people might not get.
But you don't need to get it.
It's just a statue.
Right. There's one shot in particular that really stands out from the rest. Brian, do you happen to know which one it is?
Is it the one with the lady in the bikini bottoms with like 15 Game Boy carts crammed it and just kind of like sticking out? And maybe it's a fashion statement, or maybe she has like 30 more in there, and these are just like bursting to get out.
She had to take her games to the pool or to the beach, and
she hadn't bought a carrying case yet.
Like, where am I going to put all my games? And they're just literally like bursting out of her bikini bottom piece.
There's also a cartoonishly fat Elvis who he'd been dead like for over a decade at this point. A cartoon version of Mario playing,
feels very out of place of the rest of it.
At this point, he's the biggest thing in the entire world. More kids recognize Mario than they do Mickey Mouse in the late 80s.
At that point?
Yes. There was there's a study, a poll or whatever that is very famous. And
I remember that, but I don't remember it being that early.
Yeah, it was pretty early on. They were taking over the world, Clay.
Yeah. I figured it'd be more into the 90s that would creep up, but regardless, not a bad commercial. Probably one of the less cringy that we've seen.
Yeah, no,
far.
I actually can enjoy this one for probably the reasons that it should be enjoyed instead of some of the other ones.
Yeah, definitely. So, any last thoughts or comments on the commercial?
You can play anywhere, man.
Yeah, you can play anywhere, man.
Even in the outhouse.
That's right. Getting back to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, we are going to start off our gameplay discussion by taking a look at the story. Now, we're not going to go overly in depth here.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I'm going to assume if you're listening, you've hopefully seen the movies. If not, at the very least, read the books or one or the other. Whatever.
So Harvey, Rob, and Hermie. Yeah, they're our main... Hermimi. Yeah. They're our main characters. They're all dwarves. And
there's the One Ring.
And I love you, Jess.
No, here... Yeah, so if you can't pick up what Brian's doing here, you're not the biggest Harry Potter fan. You've seen almost all of the movies, except for the last one.
Yeah, and I like them. I like them just fine.
Never read the books.
No.
Okay. So I've read most of the books and definitely seen all the movies multiple times. So I consider myself to be a big Harry Potter fan. Brian, maybe not so much, but he likes to...
I respect them.
He does, and he enjoys comically... reaccounting them incorrectly. Or close to
I have a friend who hates it when I do that, so of course I do it every time every chance I get. I respect I respect the narrative that J.K. Rowling has created. I think they're very interesting, and I've just never sat down and read them.
Yeah, fair enough. So for those of you who have seen or read the books or the movies, this game, I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, Brian. I can't remember because I wasn't paying attention. This game is more based on the books than the games themselves. The movies themselves. Man, I'm like not with it today. So you'll notice as you start playing through, there are things in this game that aren't in the movie but are from the book. And a lot of the art style is not necessarily in line with the movies, which is totally fine. It's not a bad thing. It's not really an issue to me.
No, in fact, I actually think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where games have done that, and I don't think it works well. Lord of the Rings comes to mind for me. They, around the time the movies came out, they put out a Fellowship of the Ring game for like Xbox and stuff.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh,
that was before EA got the license,
right? And it was unbearable. Like I owned it, and it was bad. It didn't help that it wasn't a good game, but
how many hours did you have to spend with Tom Bombadil?
Yeah, right. It's like, can we move on? I just remember being really frustrated with the game, and I think just the art style was kind of off-putting. But I feel like this game, the art style is close enough to what you see in the movie. Or just the movie is that close to the way the book has it that it doesn't feel totally out of place. Plus, you're working with a Game Boy Color that has restrictions, so when you're looking at this pixelated picture of Harry, you're like, it kind of looks like Daniel Radcliffe. So I'm a kid. I don't know any better.
Yeah, like I think if you played this as a kid, you probably could be forgiven for not realizing that this wasn't part of the movie. Like they're Game Boy Color sprites, you know.
Right.
Severus sort of looks like Alan Rickman's Severus, but then again, Alan Rickman's Severus looks like the way he was described in the book, presumably. So
Yeah.
the game's version going off the book looks like Alan Rickman's Severus. So
Yeah. In fact, starting out playing it, like I wasn't really having any issues. And I don't think it was until you get to Ron's house and you meet his parents, the Weasley parents, that I was like, whoa, this doesn't look like the movie. And it was at that point it was a little more obvious. But really up until that point, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, oh, it's from the movie. So I'm not sure if they didn't have permission from the movie to draw from that, or if they just found it easier to use the sources from the books so that they could get a quicker start on it.
Yeah, because Warner Brothers has their own game production arm, but they don't have the license to produce the games, which I don't know the story behind that. That would have been interesting to look into.
Yeah.
I should have done that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it just cost more money to do it, because there are presumably other Harry Potter games based on the movie likenesses. Maybe they just didn't feel they had to do that for a lot of these games. Or maybe they also wanted to cover more of what the book covered than things that the movies leave out.
Yeah. So basically, coming back around to story here, it's pretty much really I mean, I didn't play the entire game because it is a long game. But
nor did I.
Yeah, and
I got about halfway through the game.
Everything we played, like, it didn't feel like this was not like let's move quickly through this. It was like, oh, we're hitting everything, and some of it we're probably sticking on longer than we need to.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day Party. That's something that you go to, and that's something explored in the book, but not in the movie. And so it feels really thorough. Like, I feel like they could have skipped certain things to make it just work better as a game, and they didn't. And then there are certain things like you go down to Gringotts at the beginning to get your money, and then you end up spending time there, fighting bad guys and to find your cell. So there's certain things where they are like, all right, how can we extend this out a little bit longer? How can we make this more of a tutorial or whatnot? So
you actually spend a lot of time in Diagon Alley. There's a lot to do there.
I know. I felt like I had spent over an hour, maybe even longer, and I wasn't even at Hogwarts, and I was like, man. And it just depends how you play an RPG. If you want to spend a lot of time walking around and trying to level up and grinding and all that, but still, it felt very thorough, and they weren't really skipping over a whole lot, which some of the movies felt that way after reading the books. But regardless, if you don't know Harry Potter, this is the second year for Harry Potter as he goes back. This is where Dobby shows up and is trying to keep him from going back, and people start getting not killed but terrorized, and there's something in the walls. Harry's hearing noises. It's a big long story, and then basically at the end, Harry Potter figures out how to open the Chamber of Secrets within Hogwarts. So
hooray!
I'm not going to go much more into the story than that, so you get the idea. Brian, can you moving on from story, let's go ahead and talk about the gameplay, maybe the levels, or just however you want to go about this. Just explain a little bit.
As far as levels, it's mostly just Hogwarts and the school ground. So you do have like Hagrid got his place outside of Hogwarts. You go there a few times. There are the Quidditch field, the Quidditch pitch. I don't know if they call it that too there, but mostly you spend a lot of time in Hogwarts, going up and down the stairs, talking to people, delivering things, doing fetch quests.
Yay,
and
fetch
whatnot.
quests!
Yeah. Most of the story beats, they are very detailed, like you said.
Right.
But each time you usually have to do something while you're there. Sometimes it's in the form of, hey, go out, like with the what are the mandrakes?
Yes.
You have to, they get away and you have to capture them, and that is walking through like a maze garden, fighting 4 of them, and then fighting the big one, and then going back and saying, hey, I got all of the mandrakes back. There's a lot of stuff like that. Or there will be like a mini game. So like Quidditch is a mini game. You go to practice, and then you leave and do something else. And then I went right back to practice after that. And both times it was catching the golden snitch. First time took me a minute. Second time took me 5 seconds.
Yeah, the mini games are a little underwhelming. The first one you play, you're throwing.
I actually really like that one.
Was it gnomes? Or,
yes, gnomes out of the garden, out of Ron's garden.
I did not like it because I couldn't figure it out.
I couldn't either.
Dumb.
But I thought it was hilarious, and if they had given me one more throw, I would have done a really good job. And then all of these mini games, you can go back to the main menu and then play them. There is an option for mini game. I assume you have to have played it first, but
right. And then also, once you miss the Hogwarts Express, you get to jump in Ron's parents' car and you fly.
And that's a mini game.
Fly
through the smoke rings of the train, or just rings in general. I don't remember.
There's smoke rings and for some reason that makes you faster.
Yeah,
but
it does.
I don't know. The mini games are okay. It's a good change of pace. It breaks up the top down RPG feel of the whole game, and so I don't dislike it. I don't know. It almost would have just felt better if they would have just put those on the main menu and not had them be a part of it at all, not a part of the main game. I mean, but whatever.
I ended up. I liked the bowling one. I thought that was fun. It was. I mean, it's simple bowling. It's anything if you ever had a flip phone back in the day and had a dumb bowling game on it, it's the exact same thing basically.
Right. But it has skulls.
Yeah, skulls, and you knock bones over. I got a 155, so I was pretty proud of myself.
But it's cool. Like, if you're playing Harry Potter and you're like, I'm kind of bored I don't know where to go. I'm just going to go play some bowling.
Yeah. Like,
that's nice. It's neat that you can get to them from the main menu and you don't have to, start the game over to get to it or something stupid. So.
It might be even, this is total speculation, might even be like a link cable option to play against your friend and something.
Know.
But, I don't know.
That's a good question.
I know that there is a link cable functionality to trade cards and stuff
IR
like that.
sensor, no link
cable.
cable.
But you can use a link cable. When I was reading about it earlier, it does have that capability.
But you're right. I kind of stumbled across that and I know we're getting ahead of the card thing, but yeah, you could trade with other players. So there is some kind of 2-player compatibility with doing things, but we should probably explain what the cards are, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, we said it earlier. This is an RPG, straight up turn-based RPG. You start off with just Harry, but Ron joins the party shortly thereafter because you go to his house. And eventually Hermione will join the party. Also, at some point, Gilderoy, Lockhart, and then Fox will be in your party. Fox is only in it at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
But I think Gilderoy, I don't know if it's just one section of the game where he's there.
I think it's just toward the end too.
One nice thing is the battles aren't random. If you don't want to fight something,
That's true.
The bad guys will spawn in and out of existence as little magical clouds.
Yeah.
If you would like to battle them, walk up, get into a battle. If you are like me and you've been looking for a specific classroom for 15 minutes and you don't want to fight anymore and you just want to get to the classroom, then you just walk around it. Everything's
which is nice. Cool. I appreciate that.
I never found myself too underleveled to do something. And
I did.
If I was because I remember that for you couldn't beat something.
Yeah, I was in Gringotts and I kept getting destroyed by this knight and armor thing.
I ended up using one of the cards that we were mentioning earlier to take him out, but you didn't have the same cards that I did or something like that. So you didn't have access to that combo. In a battle, you have a couple different options for attacking. Everyone has the ability to use spells, and they have the same 9 spells. Each spell has different intensities that you unlock by leveling up. So you start off with the lowest form of maybe a couple different spells, and then you'll level up and you'll get the lowest form of one you don't have, and then so on like that. Eventually, you will unlock the second form, which costs more magic power but is stronger. Yada, yada, yada. It's an RPG. Everyone has access to the same spells, I think, or at least
I think so.
their spots are on there. Maybe Ron can't do Expelliarmus or something.
He couldn't do the one where you research a character. Only
Right, yeah,
Harry could do
he
that.
doesn't. I think Hermione can as well.
Okay.
Because she's a bookworm. So
Right, that makes sense.
yeah, that's the other big thing is that Informus or whatever it is.
Yeah.
This game comes with your character. Harry has a book of every bad guy in the game. It fills in when you see them, and then you want to use Informioso to identify what they are weak against and what they are resistant to. And it will show you a picture of the spell.
It's a Pokedex.
Yeah, it kind of, yes.
But you have to use an actual move in combat to get that information.
Right, so you have to take a turn. But once as long as you're diligent and investigating each monster the first time you see it, you will have a full dex that you can look at. And it's called like a folio.
Yeah,
something like that.
A lot of weird,
Yeah, I wonder if they made that one up or if that word actually appears in one of the books at some point.
I don't know.
But
that's a good question.
yeah, so you wanna be doing that because it does end up helping. Harry, on the other hand, his secondary thing is he can use his famous witches and wizard cards that you collect from like meeting certain requirements, doing story missions, just poking around the levels, like clicking, basically just walking up to everything and clicking A on it. Sometimes they're hiding in bookshelves, statues, literally anything.
Right.
That's another thing that took me so long playing through this game was I was just walking up to every single thing in the game trying to get cards. It didn't end up helping me out too much. I was hoping I wasn't using his card combos because you need like 3 of them to do an attack or heal the party, or there's one that was like Harry regens health every time he gets hit. And while I had collected I guess the recipe to each of these moves as I was going along, I didn't necessarily have the cards. I don't know how you get the cards other than I should be the one person who has all of these because I clicked on everything in this game. Got so many different cards, but apparently I wasn't, getting the right ones or getting enough. Maybe I have to go trade them. I don't know. I don't know if maybe just the game didn't do a good job of explaining that. They tried to tell me, hey, go up to the 5th floor and hang out with the card guy and get new combos and do that. That's one of the other new things that Dumbledore tells you is that, hey, you don't have to go to the card collector's club room anymore to do trades with your friend on his Game Boy Color. You can do that anywhere in the game. So
wow, that's so cool. We should probably mention a couple enemies in this game, at least on the front half, because there are some interesting choices for enemy types.
In Ron's house, you mean?
Yes, specifically Ron's house. What is there? There's a toaster.
The crank egg beater.
Yes, the evil old school egg beater.
Is there a vacuum?
Vacuum,
is
yeah.
that a thing? Okay.
Yeah. And then eventually they start to get better. You get bats and some rats.
You get turtles with horns on their shell, all over their shells.
Yeah, because everyone hates those Hogwarts turtles that attack.
Yeah, that hang out in the library or every room.
Right. And so I'm sure in the later levels they're probably a little more spectacular, but definitely
a lot of knights of varying armor color.
Which makes sense because you're in a castle. That I get. So yeah, and then they have there's a different amount obviously that you fight. Sometimes you just fight one enemy. Sometimes there's multiple. So having multiple teammates with you is very important. If you get defeated in battle, it takes you back to a healing area where you respawn and you go from there. So throughout battle, obviously you're looking at your health and you're looking at your magic points, which is how many different spells, more magic points. Pretty straightforward. But
yeah,
there's different things you can do to increase and bring back your magic points. There's potions you can drink that you find throughout, and there's different like assist movements too. Maybe hit on that real quick.
You mean as far as like Ron and Hermione go?
Right.
So yeah, like instead of the famous Wizards and Witches cards,
Of course.
Wizards of the Coast cards, Ron uses Scabbers, his little rat. He has, I think, 5 different levels of Scabbers attacks that he unlocks over the course of the game, or as he levels up. But for the most part, they're used to stun or debuff enemies, or both. I think some of the stun ones actually do a little bit of damage, but not too much. Hermione's secondary thing is a lecture subset that most of them will buff the party, grant, or like give you extra XP. Like she tells you like study harder or something like that. That's one of them. So you'll get more experience points at the end of a battle should you survive. Depending on the situation though, as far as battle is concerned, you can... Fainting in battle will leave you with 1 stamina point if only 1 party member faints. If you get a complete faint, if everybody in your party faints, you will wake up in the nurse's room with full health, full magic points. They're called stamina points in this.
I thought it was magic points.
Well, health is HP. It's not HP or hit points. It's stamina points.
Okay.
Stamina. The other thing is, when you were talking about the items, you don't get many of them. This game also has a problem with giving you enough money to buy stuff. You can sit there and grind if you want, but I tended not to grind because the best way to heal your party is to, like, level up. Because once you level up, everything refills again. So...
Right.
You could be sitting there going, like, oh, I'm hurting. Oh, Harry's about to, like, he can't even do anymore. He can't cast any more spells. But hopefully by the end of this battle, he'll level up because he hasn't leveled up in a little while. So if I just, luckily he has 1 spell that, everyone has 1 spell that costs 0 to cast. So if you're, like, in dire straits, you can just sit there and, like, whittle them down a little bit and hope that you'll level up by the end of it. I did get into a situation once where I decided, okay, I'm going to spend what precious little potions and items I have to get everybody's health and MP back up. And then the very next battle, I leveled up. And so
Dang.
I wasted all of those precious items.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Anything else? Like when you have Lockhart, his little secondary thing is he gives an autograph because he is... Full of himself, yes.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that also acts to stun enemies. And I'm not sure. Fox has a move that the walkthrough that I looked at, which was probably written years and years and years ago, that said, just use this move. It's his little secondary thing. It will
Right.
do massive damage. Don't do anything but do that.
Nice.
Don't do anything but use that move when you're fighting with him. So.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I want to say about this is I just like that they came up with unique things for each character that makes them unique, and you want to have them on your team, and so because they can do this specific thing. I think rather than just making these very generic teammates, they did a lot to kind of play off their strengths and weaknesses, their characteristics. One thing that we've talked about multiple times that is kind of funny and I kind of appreciate, but it's really annoying too.
Oh, yes, of course.
Is Ron. For those of you who know, in the movie and book, once you hit the Whomping Willow and crash into it with the car, Ron's wand breaks. And so throughout the rest of their adventure, at least for this one, his wand just like keeps backfiring and not working right.
Yeah, it's almost like if Confusion in the Pokemon games had a really, really, really low dice roll of happening, you hurt yourself in Confusion. So Ron, very rarely, it's like maybe you roll like a critical failure. You roll a 1 on a 20-sided die, and Ron hits himself in the face with whatever he was doing.
Right. Which is super annoying, but
Yes.
like I just appreciate that they added that little thing where it's like, oh, every now and then Ron might hurt himself because his wand's busted. Like,
Yeah.
I like those little details, and I appreciate that they did that.
It shows how much like care they put into making this as close to the source material as possible.
Definitely. Are you good to move on to visuals?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's much to say. Like, it actually does look pretty good for a Game Boy Color game. However, they're like some of the animations that are a bit odd. At the end, you are like, at the end of a battle, when you win, you're kind of sitting there wiggling your wand around. I don't think the wand are, I don't think they're made of rubber, but they just kind of flop there, and it looks a little. No, that's not when you win. That's when you're just in battle. So every time you're in battle, you sit there and you're just kind of like flopping your pink wand around or something. I don't know. Maybe it's they're holding their finger out or something else. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, we mentioned before that the art style is not based on the movie property, but it might as well be the same thing. There's not enough detail in a Game Boy Color game to really say too much about it one way or the other. There aren't really good animations for in the battles. There's nothing special about those. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's for the last Game Boy Color game, you think like maybe this is the best it ever got, but I don't know. The sprites are small. It's compared to the screen, even though the screen itself is small. I don't really know what more to say about the visuals themselves. It's probably the best they could possibly do.
I have some thoughts. Just a couple random things that have stood out to me. Starting out, the opening home screen, or whatever you want to call it, title screen, I think looks brilliant. It's like really beautiful. It's like this weird, not weird. It's like a orange sunset with the sky kind of scrolling
very
infinitely.
Warm colors.
Yeah, I don't know. I always like every time I turn it on, I'm like, man, that looks really good. So I really like that. The other thing that I noticed, and one time it was just you playing, and I looked over and I'm like, man, the floor tiles look really good in this game.
They're detailed. Yeah,
and some of them get like really odd and like different colors and patterns. I don't know. It's a nice variety. It doesn't feel like it's super repetitive the whole time. You're not just stone. You're walking on. I don't know. I just really liked that. One thing I didn't like are when you have dialogue, there's the dialogue box that comes up and there's the little avatar pictures of them in the corner, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And some of them just look bad. They look like children's book. Well, that's a dumb comparison, but like a really low quality like kids book.
Yeah, you can't put too much detail into them, really.
Well, this is the chance you get to put a little detail into them compared to the actual game sprite itself.
Yeah.
Like Harry's in particular looks just really derpy. And I always thought that because like his mouth's open and he's like, "Blah," and he kind of looks like a Cabbage Patch Kid or something. And so I thought that, but I didn't really ever like say anything to you about it. And then I was watching like the one review I could find on YouTube of this, and the guy used it as the thumbnail for his video.
Yeah.
And like he talked about it in the review. He's like, I don't like these, especially this Harry Potter face. It's always like haunted me. And he's like, so I'm going to make it like the thumbnail for this review because it's just so haunting. So that was like the one negative thing I had visually with that. Just didn't think that looked super great. Other than that, though, everything else was fine. The user interface was not terrible. It was relatively easy to navigate. So after a little bit, you pretty much knew what was what. So but everything else was fine with me. So
yeah, no.
Audio-wise, Brian, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the Game Boy Color itself was kind of closer to an NES more than anything.
Definitely.
So the music is on par with like, late NES game as far as like the amount of music channels they have to work with. I don't feel like they took full advantage of it. Like I'll be listening to the music and go like I can hear the different channels in it, but I don't know. I think they're very basic. I think they're very simple. I heard much better music from much older Game Boy games.
Fair enough.
It's not bad. It's just unremarkable more than anything else, I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree. Obviously, none of this is based off John Williams' score from the movies, so
Right.
it's all original to this game.
Tonally, I think it fits.
Definitely, yeah. So I was gonna say,
It doesn't stand out in any way.
right. But there's a lot of music in this game. Even before we started recording, I was scrolling through different music tracks from the game, and there's just a lot. So they did pump out quite a bit for this game. So I do appreciate that. And some of them I can tell that they're trying to not just make these little jingles that repeat after 30 seconds,
Right.
but actually trying to create what we would probably call like a score, where it's actually going somewhere, things come in, things go out, and melodies maybe repeat from time to time in different songs, but in different ways. So it's not like rehashing, but just like different variations of a melody line or something.
Yeah.
So, but I'm with you. I think at times it serves its purpose, and at times it's just kind of, it's there. I know some of the people we read reviews or people talking about online, they would just turn the music down and listen to something else.
Although the first review I think we looked at, he just gushed over the music.
He did love it a lot.
He would not, like, he just said, like, oh, this is some of the best music I've ever heard. And I was like, I'd already played like two and a half hours of the game, and I was like, I disagree, sir. I'm sorry. I don't see it. Or I don't hear it. I don't know.
But for the quantity, I think the quality is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean,
so-
they put a lot of music in this game, so that's
Right,
fair.
'cause
That's fair.
They could have taken a lot less music and used it for like, oh, the whole time you're in Hogwarts, you hear the same song over and over. But I feel like different areas have different music. And
Yeah.
So
you cross a certain floor, it's the same song, but with like different instrumentation or something.
right.
So maybe if you get into the basement, it changes again. But a lot of Hogwarts has the same song, just played differently.
Fair enough. All right, Brian. Final thoughts. What are your? How many thumbs? What do you think? What are your recommendations?
I mean,
Should people play
I was
it?
amused by it, just by the fact that I didn't realize it was an RPG. So instantly amused by it there. I stuck with it because of how close it was to the book and how some of the things I didn't know were, because I've seen the movie. The older a Harry Potter movie is, the more I've seen it, because they were everywhere for a time. So I've seen this one a number of times, and it was like, oh, I didn't know that this happened, or I didn't know this part about the story or stuff like that. So that kept me going. But about halfway through, I did not have the will to continue on. I wouldn't even say that, like, hey, does your kid like Pokemon? Introduce them to this, because this is like another entry-level RPG. I feel like this itself is like, if your kid's playing this, then go, hey, you should play Pokemon. That would have been like the step to take. I feel like this is like a step below Pokemon. It's very basic for an RPG. I don't know. I don't think it's awful. I give it a thumb.
One thumb up.
But,
All right.
it's all right. Whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with mostly what you're saying. I was more surprised and like pleased with it than I thought I would be.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think if you're a fan of the movies or the books, it's worth checking out. I would say it's worth going back to. It may not hold your attention for the entire game. It is a bit longer, like I mentioned. So you might, drift away from it relatively quick, but even for a little while, just kind of enjoying the first little bit of it, and, maybe grinding a little bit and getting powerful and just kind of making your way through it. I don't know. If you're a fan of the, Harry Potter, I think it's worth checking out. If you like RPGs, maybe this has something unique, but I mean, if you're a big RPG guy, this might, like you said, it might feel a little too juvenile and like,
yeah, there's not like a really impressive system here.
right.
You have your spells. That's about it.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something that we don't understand about the game because the speedrunners are using some sort of strategy that is letting them deal triple-digit damage, at the very beginning of the game. So I don't know what they did other than use a Game Shark, but
That's doubtful,
yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'm with you. One thumb up out of 2, I would say. 1 thumb up. But still, I enjoyed my time with it, and I think they did a lot of things right, and I appreciate how faithful to certain things they were and the little details they put into it. So yeah, 1 thumb up.
Yeah. And now it's time for this week's Song of the Week.
And for this week's Song of the Week, I picked a song from Pokemon Red. No, that's not right. No.
This is the Victory Road song.
Yes, Victory Road. No, I'm sorry. This is from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This is the opening title track created by Mark Cooksey,
Oh, yeah?
the beloved composer Mark Cooksey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Arranged by, we might say?
No.
Arranged by Mark Cooksey.
I said made by Mark Cooksey.
Oh, okay.
Like he probably made the track, but he didn't. Obviously, this is a John Williams track. Figured Harry Potter, John Williams. There's a connection in there somewhere.
Sure.
Even if none of his music's in the Harry Potter game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I figured for the Song of the Week, why not have a song that people might actually know, and so they could hear the Game Boy version of it. But I mean, it's pretty much got all of the little nuances, more or less, from the actual John Williams song.
Yeah, I'm glad that it didn't just repeat the dun 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 over and over again.
Yeah, they actually went into the other parts.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. We'll have to check this game out sometime, see if it's any good.
I would like to.
It's probably terrible.
Well, not 80s. LucasArts had their crap together in the 80s.
You think it's a platformer?
Most likely.
Most definitely.
I mean, and if it's got any bit of Bionic Commando whip swinging in it, then I'm cool with it.
That's true. That would be neat. Well, guys, if you would like to suggest a song for our Song of the Week, feel free to comment on the YouTube, hit us up on Twitter at The Nintendo Village, or you can email me at clay@thenintendovillage. Stay tuned next week to see what song we play on Song of the Week. Well, guys, that is it for this episode. Thank you so much if you've stuck through to the very end. Guys, if you want, you can find more of our episodes on thenintendovillage.com, where we are also on the Nintendo Village YouTube page as well. So if you want to watch gameplay as we're talking through each game, also watch our commercials, not our commercials, their commercials, you can also view those all there as well. If not, you can listen to us on iTunes. That's usually where I listen to my podcast.
Yeah.
So, Brian, thank you so much for your intellectual insight this week.
Sure.
It's a treasure as always.
As always.
As always. All right, guys, we will see you next week for another episode of Strictly Game Boy.
Wingardium Leviosa.
So.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, check out some of our other videos, and visit thenintendovillage.com, your home for everything Nintendo.